Um, Welcome along to today's episode of 420 News, and I'm your host, Martin Condon. And 420 News is brought to you by Martin's World. Guys, just give me a second there. I just gonna fix. I think my microphone there was just a little bit of out of whack, but I think I got it more finely adjusted there now. So hopefully that's not after screwing up my whole episode. But anyway, we live and we learn. Today, guys, we haven't got a whole lot of news to be honest. We're just going to stay within the confines of the UK and Ireland. The first news story we're going to cover is going to be in the UK, and then everything else is going to be in Ireland today. That's partly because I spent most of the morning just finalizing edits to the newly uploaded episode of Martin's World, where I got the opportunity to interview Jim Weathers from Puff and Stuff. Puff and Stuff, if you don't know, they were raided last year by the Gardai because of selling CBD flowers, so they had their CBD flowers seized, and he's now awaiting a trial date there for that seizure. The government are adamant. The director for public prosecutions are going to be doing them for possessing cannabis. Even though it was kind of CBD flowers that were believed to be kind of caught in a grey area where some people were saying they were okay because they were under 0.2% THC, but the law actually kind of explicitly states that THC is a controlled substance and cannabis flowers, regardless of THC content, are illegal. It was a very enjoyable conversation I had with him. So if you haven't already, go check that out. That's up there now on YouTube, and it's also available on Spotify and the other places there you might catch your podcasts and what have you. And thanks again thanks again to Jim from Puff and Stuff. Check out his store online, puffandstuff.ie. If you haven't already, it's a good place to get your products from anyway. And yeah, thanks again, Jim. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I hope you guys enjoy the interview too. So guys, before I get on to the 420 news, I also just want to remind you that I also have a Patreon that's up there now at the moment. It's patreon.com/Martin's World. And if you'd like to subscribe there, what you're going to be subscribing to do is to help me establish a cannabis activist hub in Cork City where cannabis activists can come meet and work on different projects and plan and organise themselves in how to and most effectively legalise cannabis in Ireland. So if you'd like to do your part in helping that, go up there, hit that button and subscribe onto that Patreon. Also on martinsworld.ie, there's a button there for people to make donations through Bitcoin. So I'll open up the other cryptocurrencies in a while, but right now it's just Bitcoin. Again, guys, just to repeat, that's not that's not going into my pocket at all. That's going to be going into establishing a hub for the cannabis activists in Cork City to kind of come and work together on different projects towards getting cannabis legalized in Ireland. So thanks very much for that, guys, to anybody who has already subscribed or made donations through that. I'll keep you all updated as things go. Obviously, the whole coronavirus is going to slow down the establishment of any hubs where people can come and meet, because look, we're in level 3 now. We can't even call and to the pubs and all this kind of crack anymore. So yeah, just watch this space and yeah, keep the donations coming in, guys. Thanks very much. So onwards we go, guys. The first item on today's 420 news is going to be bringing us to the UK. And over there in London, if you haven't already heard, there was a bunch of teenagers in a London Catholic girls' school. I believe it was a girls' school because it was 13 teenage girls who fell ill after eating what authorities believe to be sweets laced with THC. Now, the thing about that is, these kids got these treats somewhere, and it's from an unregulated source. So it's quite dangerous there that it's unknown what's to be in those treats. But one newspaper headline actually said about trying to scare people into this kind of nonsense. parents warned over innocent-looking cannabis sweets 50 times stronger than a joint that put 13 girls into hospital. That's just another bit of scaremongering there by the media, and a bit of a sensationalist headline, because like 50 times stronger than a joint. It's just, they're just clutching at straws. Like they say that it's compared to 15 milligrams of THC that would be in a joint, but like whose joint? My joint? Their joint? Like where are they really pulling this from? There is no standard as to what a joint is. Um, so it's just more fairmongering, and if they were to actually be factually correct on this, it's not 50 times stronger than a joint actually. THC, when it's consumed in an edible form, is converted in the liver into a more potent 11 delta hydroxy. Again, I could be wrong on the actual name of that, but it's a different compound when it gets passed through the liver after you eat it, and that's actually a number of times more potent than THC. So if these kids ate the amount that they're saying, like it actually probably could have exceeded um, the 50 times that they're saying here if they actually did some proper homework. But it wouldn't be 50 times stronger than a joint. It would be, 50 times stronger than a THC equivalent. Just saying a joint there, it's scaremongering in my eyes anyway. They say 15 milligrams of THC down into the article, but this headline is just as the media do. They're sensationalist. But the authorities were called at 11:45 a.m. to the school because there was 13 girls having in distress. They were getting sick. Their heart rate was increasing, and some of them, they say, were experiencing hallucinations. Um, that's just a bit ridiculous. To me, it seems like there's a likelihood that these guys could have been caught with like some of this synthetic stuff that's out there. Like me and Jim actually in that interview yesterday, we touched off of this where you can buy these packages. I think I have a picture of it here. Like, yeah, I've a picture of it here. You can buy these packages online through like websites like Wish. And you can get them rather cheaply too. And then sure, all you have to do is stick your treats in there, and it's not that hard. If you're a drug dealer out there and you want to make some money, an easy way to make it would be buying some cheap synthetic chemical like the stuff that they put on that spice, that K2 stuff, and you just lace it into these treats. I actually have some of these treats here. I picked these up yesterday from the guys at oh, where's my camera? There we go. There we go. This is what's left of the packet actually. My dogs pulled it off the table a while ago and tore into it, and I've kind of tore into what's left of it. But those ones aren't laced with THC at all. I got these off of a local guy, the Candy Plug there, who's up on Instagram. But these aren't laced with THC, but those other ones actually are, that are pictured here in that picture. They say that these ones that the kids got were a heavily medicated form as well, that they contained up to 600 milligrams of THC, which is quite potent considering that this Nerdro packet pictured here has about 60 milligrams, and the recommended dose in Colorado is about 10 milligrams per serving. So just put in perspectives the level of THC that's going into some of these products. Again, I'm not trying to scaremonger people at all. I think that recommended dose in California is incredibly low. But at the same time, for a person who has never tried THC before, I think it's actually kind of accurate. So it's all in perspective. What's good for one mightn't be good for the other. I got quite a high tolerance to cannabis, but I imagine some young teenage girls, if it was THC that was in there, and maybe if it was their first time experiencing cannabis, it is quite likely if it contains 600 milligrams of THC that they went into a a deep dark place. I've been there. Like I've eaten some really strong cookies before, and I really underestimated the strength of them. And whoa, is all I'll say. Like yeah, that was it was intense. I enjoyed it. It was challenging. I overcame it, but I enjoyed it. But I could understand how a person who maybe of a weaker mind, I don't know, maybe a bit more paranoid, a bit more susceptible to being frightened, might not have enjoyed that at all in the slightest. But the authorities over there, when they were reached out to, and kind of, 13 girls here in the school really sick, possible drug overdose, they responded in kind. They dispatched 5 ambulance crews. So an ambulance crew, I'd imagine that's at least two paramedics, if not three. So they'd five ambulance crew dispatched. They dispatched a clinical team leader, a pretty high up guy, I'd imagine, by the sounds of it. They dispatched medics in cars. It didn't say how many medics in cars were dispatched. And there was also an incident response officer sent down, obviously, to record everything that went on. Now, positive news in this: none of the girls are seriously unwell. They were taken to hospital and they're all doing fine, I imagine. They're coming down off of, if it was THC, they're coming down off it. Actually, the follow up and what I said a while ago, if they were caught with one of the synthetic forms of cannabinoids, that would have been rather worrying, because they mightn't have come down off them for a couple of more hours. But if it is actually synthetic, or if it is actually natural THC extracted from the cannabis plant, then there's not much to be worried about. Let the kind of compound take its course through the body, and all will be well once things take their course. They'll come away with it with a different point of view, and probably a newfound respect for cannabis edibles over there. But it's just a reinforcement as to the need for regulation. Like young girls, 13 of them, getting their hands on cannabis edibles and having quite a bad time by the sounds of it. It's rather worrying, and I hope the authorities take this as a lesson learned, and one, to be used to argue for the legalization and regulation of these substances, where quality can be assured, where parents can be like peace of mind knowing that like their kids can't go and buy the stuff on the street corner. They have to go into a store, and there's going to be age limits in place, so it'll be difficult for them to get, as opposed to currently now where this stuff is sold by their buddies. Their buddies are used by bigger drug dealers who use kids to sell the stuff to their groups of friends. And sure, the kid selling the stuff thinks he thinks he's the bee's knees, because he's probably making a few extra pound, and he thinks he's the cool kid in the block. He's selling the edible sweets, because these are taken off now. By the sounds of it, they're getting quite trendy out there. But like what this article said that I got this from is that packets of the cannabis laced nerds can be bought online for just 6p. No, I don't know about that. Like, I think that's completely wrong. Maybe what they're referring to is that the packaging can be bought for as little as 6p per package, as in like you would buy 100 packets for like £6, and then you could like put your homemade sweets into those packets and say that it is those sweets. Maybe that's what they're pointing out. And again, like more ammunition there just for the regulation of these things, because you can go into a couple of stores in Cork at the moment, and you can buy some of these fake packages that people are using then to repackage products afterwards, that aren't what they're supposed to be. I got a message yesterday from a person who sent me on a kind of a screenshot of a conversation taking place, where there's accusations being made now that there's fellas selling CBD cherry pie or CBD buds as UK cherry pie, or as Australian cherry pie. So just be forewarned on that. If you are offered any cherry pie, it's possible that it's not actually a THC variety, that it's one of these CBD varieties that's not going to get you high. So just to be forewarned that that's a possible risk to be looking out for when you come across cherry pie. So yeah, onwards from there, guys. Sorry to those girls. I hope you're doing well. But we drive on. We actually have a study to talk about here. Before we get to the news in Ireland. So there was a recent study that was published, and it's indicating as to how cannabis can play a role in reducing the symptoms of bowel conditions such as IBS. It's a very common one, and other ones, including Crohn's disease. I had Clark French on a couple of weeks ago, who he suffers with Crohn's disease. I'm pretty sure, or MS actually. No, I'm pretty sure Clark has MS. I'm mixing him up with another of his activist buddies there who has Crohn's. But yeah, disregard that. Clark doesn't come into this. But yeah, people who have Crohn's disease and all of this, there was a study published that is indicating as to how it is that these people are getting relief. And it's not just because of the anti-inflammatory properties of some of the compounds in the cannabis plant. It's also because of some other compounds there that are interacting with a receptor that produces more of it's an endocannabinoid called 2-arachidinyl glycerol. So there you go, 2AG for short. So the study leader, Vanessa Sperandio, she's a PhD professor of microbiology and biochemistry at the University of UTSW. Geez, I never put in the long form of that university there, so apologies. UTSW there. Anyway, it's an American university. She says that it's been unknown whether endocannabinoids affect the susceptibility of pathogenic gastrointestinal infections. So these are like bacteria within the gut that cause infections, that increase inflammation and things like that. There is links there that imbalances in your microbiota, having too much of one kind of, or even foreign kind of ones inside of there, can cause all sorts of issues. But to help answer the questions, herself and her colleagues worked with mice that were genetically altered to overproduce the potent mammalian endocannabinoid 2-AG that we just talked about, So what they'd done is when the researchers took these mice and they infected them with a type of bacteria that would have caused these reactions, what they found is that when these were compared, the genetically modified mice with litter mates who were not genetically modified, so they didn't have the receptor upregulated where it was producing this endocannabinoid. And when they were infected with this pathogenic bacteria, what they found is that the guys who had been genetically modified were less susceptible to infection, and they had lower rates of inflammation, and they had significantly lower fecal loads of the bacteria. So this was very positive news there, that this receptor, which again it's an endocannabinoid receptor, it shows there that there's a potential for helping to treat the symptoms of the IBS and the various bowel conditions out there. So in addition to this, then the researcher followed up that cannabis compounds or synthetic derivatives could eventually help patients kick intestinal bacterial infections without antibiotics. And why this is very important, because certain antibiotics, when they interact with the bacteria in the gut, it can trigger the bacteria to produce toxins which can be deadly to the patient. So this is a no-no, which actually makes those drugs quite dangerous if this reaction is to take place within the gut. So what they have found is that these cannabis molecules, these endocannabinoids too, they interfere with the ability of the bacteria to communicate cellularly. So for the bacteria to communicate intercellularly with itself. So this is a very positive thing there, and it's certainly, it's good news. Thank God I have some good news to report here today. I definitely go out of my way to try to find something positive to report about cannabis, but here we have it in the form of a very complicated scientific study that, look, I'm trying to break it down as easy as I can without going into the nitty gritty of all these receptors and the pathways that are being activated. But in conclusion to this, the study author, again, Vanessa Sperandio, she said by harnessing the power of natural compounds produced in the body and in plants, we may eventually treat infections in a whole new way. So there we go, guys. A plant that we go out of our way to demonize so much in our society. We have wasted so much bloody resources there going out and taking this plant off of the streets. We've got so many patients out there currently who are lacking access to it, and yet the data is growing by the day to support the reasons why these patients should be accessing this medicine. Shame on any policymakers out there who are getting in the way of allowing patients access to this medicine. Shame on you all. I just don't know how you sleep at night with yourselves, knowing the harm and the pain you're causing people keeping this away. Effectively, all prohibition has done has put cannabis into the hands of criminals, and it's taking it out of the hands of researchers. So, for God's sake, just end this prohibition and let's start making some positive headway. Let's start getting some Irish researchers out there, making headlines like this. For God's sake, UCC have an amazing glass house down in Cork City here, and I don't know what they're using it for. They could be growing cannabis plants down there, extracting it, making cannabis oils, and giving it to patients for free. Well, not for free, in exchange for data. We can be gathering data, and we can be developing medicines. We could nearly nationalize it or something like that. I don't know, but I don't want to see the profiteering of these other guys. I just want to see people who genuinely have patients and consumers' best interests at heart, So that's a positive thing there anyway for today's 420 news. Sadly, I can't say that there is much positive news to follow at all. It's all fucking Gardaí. Sadly. So here we go, guys. Bear with me. The Gardai above in Meath, they arrested a man after a massive seizure above there, where they seized up to $1.5 million worth of illegal drugs, guns, and cash. Three things that shouldn't really be mixed together, I suppose. Illegal drugs, cash, and guns. Illegal drugs, we shouldn't have illegal drugs, to be honest. Not cannabis anyway, at least. And cash and guns, the only people who should have those is maybe people escorting cash fans around the place. But no, prohibition puts all three into one place, because drug dealers need guns to sell their drugs to protect their cash, That's a sad world we create when we have prohibition out there, But the Gardaí anyway, they carried out a raid up there on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. and it was intelligence led. So again, piles of Gardaí out there operating, wasting their own time, when they should be basically pushing for policymakers to change policies to regulate and control these drugs. But no, sadly, they're out there putting their own lives at risk, might I add, because when you look at this, it's quite a substantial seizure, it's quite a spread that they got here on the table. You see in the bottom left of the picture, a pile of cash. It was $500,000 in cash that they seized. And then there was 950,000 worth of drugs in the form of cannabis, cocaine, MDMA tablets, and MDMA powder. So a lot of drugs there and a lot of cash, and it isn't any wonder then really that these guys have like these fucking guns. Like, if you're a supporter of prohibition, then you're a supporter of this. You're a supporter of criminals out there who will arm themselves with these deadly weapons to protect their turfs. They'll not only arm themselves with it, like, but they'll stupidly give them to like young teenage kids to maybe hide, or maybe even give a young teenage kid a job to go and shoot somebody because like some young kids are just vulnerable, and stupid and both. So like they're very much at risk, and the longer we have prohibition in place in our society, the longer we have these criminals making millions week in, week out, selling, peddling these drugs on our streets in Ireland. The longer we're going to have kids at risk of being like given these guns and recruited into the trade of drug dealing. Do you want your bloody young Johnny, sorry, the Johnnies out there, always picking on poor young Johnny, but like your poor young Johnny getting recruited into the trade of drug dealing? Like maybe his first job for him will be to mind a gun and ammunition, and you're going to have your door kicked in by the armed response units because they've been tipped off because your young Johnny was talking on the schoolyard to his buddy Barry or Tony or whoever it was, and he's telling him, Jason, I have a cool gun, I have a real gun back in my bedroom, I'm hiding it there for the drug dealer, like, big mouths, like, silly, as I said, like, stupid some of these young people can be, but like, you have cops coming in with guns then, like, raiding your home because of this. Like, the sooner we just regulate the sale and supply of these drugs, the sooner our Gardaí can be safe or putting on their uniform in the morning and going out doing their job as peace enforcers. I don't know what it is, Garda Síochána, like guardians of the peace. That's what it is, guardians of the peace. But no, by enforcing prohibition, actually they're guardians of the violence because they're perpetuating the violence on our streets. So shame on the policymakers that make them do this. Shame on them. Onwards, guys, we go. So the next item on the news today is going to be bringing us to Mayo, and it's bringing us to Kilgellia, Atty maybe Kilgellia is the name of the house, I'm not too sure, but Kilgellia Atty in Mayo. There was a raid there carried out on May of last year, May of last year, the 28th of May last year, and 300,000 worth of plants were found in the house. Okay, €300,000 worth of plants. It sounds like a lot. And it was strange how the Gardaí made out the value of the plants. And I'll kind of allude to why they might have done this. Garda Peter Kearns explained how 66 plants ready for cultivation were valued at 52,600, while a further 307 plants would have had a potential street value of €245,600. So our Gardaí have a street value of plants for €800. So I think what the guards are saying here is 66 of the plants were very close to harvest. So they were almost ready to be chopped down. They were looking fine, like fat and resinous probably. And then 307 of the plants were probably in an earlier stage of growth, not so close to harvest. But the Gardaí still applied the same value to each of the plants regardless of the stage of growth, 307 versus 66 plants there. They're the same value across the board anyway, €800 per plant. So I just thought that was a bit strange why they separated them. But as I say, it was more likely because of the stage of growth of the plants. Because as I say, the value of the plants anyway is still at the same. They're valuing them at as they were brought to harvest, Um, but a more interesting thing in this story actually was that the guy who was caught growing it was a Vietnamese man. And I've talked about this before, guys, about knowing your source and about who you might be supporting by buying your cannabis. So, what's after being found out in this is that this Vietnamese man was living in the house alone. He received no money at all. Like he was living there broke, poor, and there was monthly drop offs of food to him. Um, yeah, and yeah, he was the gardener of the house. Like that's sad. Like the man was living. Like he wasn't living. He was just existing basically within the confines of the house, doing the chores, taking care of the plants. A quite likely scenario here is that he was recruited into this. He was exported from his country, probably by a crime network over there who might be, I don't know, paying his family. He's probably got maybe a wife and kids back home who are probably being looked after by the crime network. Maybe that's where his money is going. That's probably why he receives no money in Ireland. It's all going to his family back home. And now he finds himself in front of a judge in Ireland. Um, that's sad, really. Like, and the judge doesn't really take into consideration this. At least it hasn't come across at all in the article that this guy was in any way trafficked into this by the guys who brought him over here. But it isn't a secret that people do get trafficked into this, and it is quite a common occurrence that they are people from Vietnam. Sadly, because it just is a bit of a poorer region, and they have a bit of a problem there, probably with human trafficking. It is a really sad story to kind of read into it. But the man, when he was in front of the judge, the guy's name is Min Cam Vo, and he took responsibility for his actions. So possibly because he was terrified that, look, if he pointed fingers, his wife or kids, as I say, if he has them back in Vietnam, they could be murdered by the gang, or maybe they won't be looked after. You just don't know what the case is in these situations, really. When you what the actual truth is under the surface. A lot of these people are in fear because if they are working for a massive crime network, the threat of violence is incredibly real. This man was sentenced to 2 years in prison, but he had 1 year suspended. So he's going to spend 12 months in our prisons. The Irish state now are going to fork out over €100,000 to take care of this man for the year, all for his crime of growing some plants. And meanwhile, he was probably a victim of a much more nefarious crime of human trafficking. Now, again, I have no evidence to say that he is, except it's just a suspicion that I have. I have no evidence at all to back this up, except past cases where it was found to be the case. People were trafficked. People were fearful that they might be attacked afterwards if they spoke out against the people who trafficked them. So this has happened before, and yeah, it looks like it's still happening. So that was a recent judgment. As I said, he was caught last year, but he was only recently sentenced there above in a Mayo court. So sad case, and yeah, send out blessings there to Min Cam Vo. Man, I hope you're doing okay. I hope the authorities are treating you well. I know you'll get 3 hot meals a day, and you'll be, you've accommodation, you've services there within those within the Irish prison service that you mightn't have got back in Vietnam. So if it's any consolation, like yeah. But look, we drive on. We go back to my hometown. Come back to Cork City. That's the crack, guys, boys, lads and ladies. So in Bishopstown last night, our incredible sharp-eyed Gardai spotted somebody engaging in drug dealing, or with what they believe to look like drug dealing behaviour. Yeah, so the cops spotted somebody out in the Curraheen Road acting obviously suspiciously, and they intercepted him, carried out a search. There was two men in their one in their 20s, one in their 30s, and they were found to be in possession of €8,000 worth of cocaine. It was €5,000 worth of cannabis and €100 worth of hash, and they were also caught with a €650 in cash. So quite a substantial little seizure there for the Gardai last night. Not as much cash as they like, the cash goes into the back into the exchequer, it goes into their pockets and what have you. But sadly the drugs get destroyed. Not before they are sent for analysis. So again, more resources by our state. The Forensic Science Ireland, who carry out research or carry out the analysis of the drugs. More time wasted. Like these researchers, these chemists, these analysis, they could be carrying out, I don't know, cancer research, let's say. They could be out there looking for all sorts of cures or remedies. No, they're in testing cocaine, heroin, and cannabis, and they're not even using that information then for the greater good. No, they're using it to criminalize people. But actually, like, let's say for example, this cocaine now that they seized last night, they should be priority testing that and relaying the information back out as to the purity, the contaminants, and educating the consumers out there as to what dangers they should be looking out for in the recent kind of supply of drugs on the street, or the recent seizures of drugs on the streets, what they were found to contain. No, we don't do this. We don't get this harm reduction information out there to consumers at all. No, we just destroy the stuff. We just test it to make sure it is what it is so that we can criminalize these people, and that's it. That's where the ball stops. Like, we don't use it for any greater good. Massive missed opportunity there by those people, really, to be honest. They could be getting life-saving information out there to people, and doing some benefits rather than just wasting their fucking time. What else happened up there in that? Yeah, that is it there in Bishopstown, actually. And the next item on the agenda brings us to Louth. And up in County Louth, again, a guy's house was raided. And what they found there, sadly, was €7,200 worth of plants. You want to see? Do you want to see what €7,200 worth of plants looks like? Oh, you do? Well, here you go. There you go. Like, this was the picture that was taken at this guy's grow room. There you see it, like €7,200 worth of plants. To be honest, like, it is, like, no offense to the guy. It's a certain type of growing, like pot to pot. He's just mainlining. He's not growing any secondaries there on his plants, and he be lucky to get maybe 50 bag, 3.5 grams to a quarter. There's probably people out there now saying 3.5 grams for €50. Jeez, but you're lucky. People getting ripped off big time lately on cannabis deals here in Ireland, sadly. But yeah, like he might be lucky to get 3.5 grams to 7 grams off of these plants, possibly. Nowhere near the €800 street value that the Gardai are putting on it. Actually, in this case, they are incredibly undervaluing the plants here, or sorry, overvaluing the plants here. Like, these plants are like tops, as I say, €1,000. Like, if you were lucky, if you were overcharging people for what you got off it, really, if you were selling it in the street. But like €1,000, and that's being kind. Our cops turn around €7,200. Like, but the guy is probably not even going to get 2 ounces off it. Sadly, nice plants. Like, in fairness, like, this is just, as I say, it's a certain style of growing. This is. It's not very well done in this instance. His buds aren't looking as fat as they could be. But look, it is what it is, man. This guy was probably really happy with it right up until, sadly, he wasn't with it anymore. So Yeah, above there in Louth anyway. That this was yesterday evening at 7 p.m. The Gardaí carried out that raid, and a man in his forties was arrested at the scene. And now a file is being prepared by the Director of Public Prosecutions. So again, guys, just to highlight more wasted resources by the Irish state, more public servants, like more taxpayers' money, completely wasted. Why are we wasting these invaluable resources? Seriously, like it's just it beggars belief that we continue to do it, and with all of the available information out there, that we haven't changed these policies, and we still have Gardaí going out there raiding people's homes, putting their lives at risks, and ruining other people's lives too in the process. A poor man in his forties growing 9 little plants. Like, I guarantee this was only for personal use. Like, he doesn't have enough here to sell. Like, when he chops this down, he better hope he has 9 plants to put straight in there, because this isn't even going to last 8 weeks for the poor guy. On well, and by my rate of consumption, it wouldn't last 8 weeks. Maybe he has a lower rate of consumption, but like, yeah, it's just sad to see really that the Gardaí going out of their way, carrying out such a raid on such a small grow to a small little tent. I'd imagine it's not taking up more than 1.2 square meters there, so just quite a small grow. Again, it's probably somebody ratted him out, somebody jealous of him. Maybe he wouldn't give his buddies a taste of the last crop, and that buddy then got caught with a nodge or something and ratted him out. Who knows? Like, but always remember, guys, loose lips sink ships. Yeah. Then in final news, guys, and we'll be wrapping it up then after this. It was in Dundalk, €23,000 worth of cannabis plants also seized by our Gardaí in a raid there yesterday. So 23,000 worth of plants, what's that? It's about, geez, 8, 10, about 30 plants, thereabouts, just shy of 30 plants, I would say. And yeah, the Gardaí again going up, carrying out a raid. They're wasting more of their own time. And in this case, they haven't arrested anybody. So they just went in, raided a grow house, and nobody was home. And yeah, they're following a definite line of inquiry, though, they say. Um, you just don't know. Like, more wasted time, resources, like plants there that could be used for the greater good, that would have brought a smile to many people's face, sadly now going to be destroyed, burned, and not enjoyed. Why? Why waste it? Like, why put our Gardaí at risk all the time? Sadly, this is what we do in Ireland today, and hopefully there will be someday in the not too distant future where this will not be the case. And yeah, that is it for me today, guys. That is everything that I have to report in today's 420 news. So, guys, I hope you've enjoyed it, and yeah, I hope I haven't waffled on too much there on any of those topics. But before I finish up, as always, I will swing on over and see what's happening out there with everybody in the Facebook Live world. So as always, top of the house, Dave. What's the crack, Dave, buddy? It's good to see you here. Haven't bored you yet. So what does Dave have to say? Dave says, get me some of those edibles, 50x stronger. Awesome. Yeah, man, some positive advertising out there for these edibles. And all the girls pulled the whitey. Yeah, a major whitey by the sounds of it. But man, 600 milligrams, like, that's not for the faint of heart, to be honest. And if they were young teenage girls, I'd imagine, like, probably light as well. They didn't have the body weight there. So that brings up the concentration, as opposed to a fatty like me, that would have a little bit more weight. So yeah, the poor girls pulled a whitey, but I wonder, would they be in too much a hurry to go do it again? Once bitten and twice shy and all that. Like, I get anxiety around the thoughts of consuming edibles because of how deep I went before. I'll get butterflies in my belly, just kind of like, oh, they remind me, Martin, go easy, by one bite at a time, and wait, let it let it kick in before you go too deep too quick. And Dave also has to say there, I've suffered with stomach problems all my life. When I take a break from smoking, my stomach pains always increase, absolute agony. And once I've consumed some cannabis, I can actually see the muscles in my stomach relax. CBD works to a certain degree as well. Yeah, because CBD is, as you said, it works to a certain degree because it just interacts only mildly with that receptor that the THC reacts with in a different way. So THC can be, I could be getting these backwards here now, but CBD can be an agonist and THC can be an antagonist of one of those CB receptors. Um, so that's why CBD would have lesser effect as to the THC. Yeah, but THC, it's an incredible muscle relaxant. So there you go, man. More people out there. The researchers will say that this is just anecdotal evidence, but for me, I say this is another human being sharing their experience to help other human beings. You know, that's all it is. In the science world, it is anecdotal evidence, but you know, to me, I think it's valuable stuff, and I think it's more people need to share that information actually. And Tasha, thanks for joining, Tasha. Yes, more studies. I will actually. Yeah, I should do more studies. I I just find that it's hard to break down those studies without getting too sciencey and boring everybody. I love getting into the technical aspects. I love pharmacology. Like I love the inner workings of the human body and all of these pathways that these uh, kind of compounds, the terpenes, the cannabinoids work with, and just the sheer complexity as to the interactions that take place when you consume a full spectrum cannabis medicine. But yeah, I'll do my best part to get more studies in there because it seems that they're the only source of positive news for the 420 news, sadly. And onwards, Dave, nice one again for adding in there. Dave, like the Garda, taking the seeds that we planted, sending it to be tested, a waste of money. Yeah, you're talking there about the seeds that I brought in that protest. That there's a video up on YouTube for anybody who hasn't seen it. It was a little protest I staged in Cork City where I invited the public to plant some seeds in a little pot of soil I had there, and there were cannabis seeds. And it was a little act of civil disobedience, and we brought those seeds down to the guard station afterwards, and I handed them in myself, and I took responsibility for the planting of the cannabis seeds and the potential growing of cannabis plants. There would have been over maybe 30 seeds planted in there, so in excess of €20,000 worth of cannabis plants I handed into the Garda station that day. But the guards said that they were going to send it for analysis. I was scratching my head like I told them I was admitting to it that I had planted cannabis seeds and no, they have to send it for analysis apparently. Um, I'd be very interested as to what's to come back from that. Still no word from them. Maybe the analysis was unfruitful and I'll never find out. Maybe it never went for analysis. Maybe they just said that on the day. To pacify me and to make me go away. Who knows really? I should probably follow up and see what's actually happening with that. I think the guards' names are in the video that I captured that day. So I'll follow up on it and I'll report back here if I do have any findings on that, or if the Gardaí do happen to follow up with me, which I don't think they will, to be honest. But maybe that's another protest we can repeat again someday soon. So guys, that is it there from everybody who partook in today's Facebook Live session. And thanks to everybody who tuned in, who liked the stream, and who took the time to comment as well. As always, thanks Dave for tuning in. A very loyal listener, in fairness to the live shows, and to the other guys out there as well who might be watching who haven't commented. There is quite a growing number of people now who have been loyally tuning in and supporting the show, and it's just sending me messages to let me know that of what they think of the show, and each and every one of them I greatly appreciate. And there is no bad criticism, you know, guys, if you have some criticism, please share it, like, because it's only with your help that I can improve the show and what I'm doing. So guys, with that, I'll sign off by saying don't forget to check out that Patreon, Martin's World, or patreon.com/Martin's World, and also check out martinsworld.ie, where you'll be able to find a button there to make a donation by Bitcoin. So guys, thanks very much. It's been a pleasure. As always, I'll be back on Friday with some more 420 news. And as always, keep it lit. Stay ablaze, guys. Peace.